Hello friends, my name is Emile and welcome back to some more Gran Turismo 2. Today we're continuing on with our Let's Play. This is episode 47, and in today's episode we are going to be tackling some more one-make races over in the East City. Now, in the last episode we tackled all of them for Subaru, so now we head on to Nissan, and our first event is going to be the Silvia and 200 SX Club. So that means I have to go and buy one of my least favourite cars at the moment, which is a Silvia. I've decided I am going to go for one of these Silvias. I'm probably going to get this one. Do we want that? It's a bit of a boring colour. Can we get any... That one looks like it's in a more interesting colour. It's not really. But sod it, I'll have that. It's actually got a decent amount of power. So I'd usually go with an S15, but the race mod for the S15 is awful. I clicked back too many times there. The race mod for the S15 is utterly atrocious, so I'm just going to use 200 SX instead. Anyways, I'm just going to quickly modify this up, and I will see you guys in a second. So, anyways, there we go. I've built the car up, and now let's head over to our event running about 400 horsepower, and we're going to head into our first race, which is for normal style vehicles as usual. Okay, for our first race we have headed to a midfield raceway, so let's get underway in this, and then I can talk a bit more about why I dislike the Silvia so much. So, the reason I dislike this car really isn't actually the car's fault. Usually when it comes to me disliking vehicles, it's because the actual car itself is terrible. The Silvia is not the car itself is terrible in any particular way. It's more sort of the fanboys behind this vehicle that I don't... Ooh, there we go. I just about got it through there. It's more the fanboys behind this thing that I don't like. You know, and it's especially the Forza community at the moment, or should I say, not all of them, because most of them are sane, quite cool human beings. It's those who, you know, the drifter JDM bunch who are like, oh, Forza doesn't listen to the community, we've been asking for the S14 for years, huh? S14, 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 right? I don't see the... Why do you want the S14 in the game, right? Here's where I stand on the S14, okay? It weighs more than the S13, it doesn't have that much more power than the S13 does, so why would Forza ever feel the need to bring it in? Another thing is the fact that I just don't see the appeal of the Silvias. I really don't. I think these are... Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't call them particularly ugly, but my god, they're boring. The S14 and even the S13, both of them are very, very dull looking Japanese coupes. They just don't look interesting at all. I can think of a million Japanese cars that are, you know, interesting and cool and should be in more games than the Silvias. To be honest with you, right, let's be honest, the drifting didn't become... you know, didn't really see a resurgence per se in the 2000s. I bet you any money the Silvias would have been long forgotten about, but no, they're still here. And yeah, not my favourite vehicles, it has to be said. And like I said, it's not really the S14's fault. It's just, I don't like them, and I just think they're dull looking cars. They remind me of Vauxhall Astras and Vectras, which are cars which you can't really call them ugly, because there's just no style to them whatsoever. It's just not an interesting vehicle. That being said, never driven one, maybe they're amazing to drive, but even if it was amazing to drive, no one would have even batted an eyelid at them. No one would remember the Silvia if it was not for this whole JDM drifting whatever that has come up. So yeah, anyways, we are across the line on the Silvia. Not too bad, handling a little bit tail happy, but yeah, you'd expect that. Anyways, there was a bunch of other Silvias in this particular race. There was an S15. The S15 is my favourite type of Silvia. As I said, I just decided not to go with it because the race mod isn't particularly interesting. Anyways, we get 5,000 credits, fantastic, and I will see you guys for racing modifications in a second. Okay, it is now time to racing modify our Nissan 200 SX, so let's go ahead and head over to the tuning shop where we will apply racing car modifications. And I've got to be honest, the Silvia looks a lot better in a racing mod spec. I think it's a really good looking car actually. when you do that to it. So yeah, let's carry the work out on that. It's got a pretty cool race mod design, which is really awesome. Anyways, let's head back over to events and let us start the next race, which is going to be for racing style vehicles. Okay, we have headed to the special stage Route 5 for the next race in the Silvia Cup. I believe, did we do Club stage Route 5 in the Subaru? I'm not too sure. It's been a couple of days since I recorded the last episode, so I don't really know what events I was in the last episode. I apologise if you're seeing a bit of overlap when it comes to the tracks, although to be fair, I think the Subaru, we run this the correct way round. Oh god, there we go. There's some slidey action from the Silvia. It turns in quite nice though, which is something I will give it to its credit. But yeah, I mean, like I said, in race mod, to be fair, this car doesn't look half bad, but it's just not my cup of tea, I'm afraid, and I'm not a fan of this whole, you know, JDM drifting thing. Don't get me wrong. Oh, there we go. There we go. She had to do it eventually. You know, don't get me wrong, I appreciate the talent and skill needed to go drifting, and I've seen some of the competitions on YouTube, and they're pretty entertaining to watch. I don't understand the rules, like, at all, but I can see the appeal of it, certainly. But I don't like, you know, the fact that everyone seems to want to dress the car up as a drift missile, and all the rest of it is like, what? I don't really know. Anyways, modified, you know, again, I'm not hating on modified cars either. I don't really see the point of them for the most part, anyways. You know, there's some crazy modified cars I like, you know. There's the Suzuki Hayabusa smart car, that's pretty cool. There's the, you know, I've seen some crazy stuff. There was a, what was it, I think it was a W12 Volkswagen Lupo. I've seen a Skoda Octavia as well with like I think it had two V8s in it, I can't remember, it had some crazy stuff in it. That sort of stuff, hell yeah, I appreciate. But, you know, this whole, you know, JDM camber, make my car look like drift car stuff, I do not understand it at all. Your car is not from the Fast and Furious, you are not Paul Walker, get over it. I mean, oh god. To be honest with you, I do wonder, like, where car culture would be without the Fast and Furious films. And don't get me wrong, I love the Fast and Furious films, they're great. But I do wonder, you know, sort of whether this whole, you know, JDM bro culture would be alive if it wasn't for those particular films. I know for a fact Skylines and RX-7s would be a hell of a lot cheaper, but without them films, because that would be quite nice. And they also, for the most part, probably wouldn't have been ruined by people with flat caps. Because, you know, the thing most people forget with Japanese cars is before all the Fast and Furious films and stuff, these vehicles were, you know, they didn't particularly have much value to them. The RX-7, I remember watching a 1998 episode of Top Gear where they said, you know, it's a cheap version of a Porsche 944 and you can have it for peanuts. And, well, nowadays you're paying 10k for a decent looking RX-7. Anyways, I'm not even going to go through the ending grid. I don't know what any of those are. They're all just different makes of Silvia. If you want to look through them, there you go. There's the race mod for the 99 Silvia. I think you'll agree it's pretty uneventful, I guess. Speaking of uneventful, that race, other than my slight spin out. Anyways, we get 7,000 credits, which is always appreciated. And I will see you guys in a second. Okay, so there we go, that is all of the races done for the Nissan Silvia, both normal and racing style, have been completed. Anyways friends, that is it for today's episode of the Gran Turismo 2 Let's Play. I do hope you've enjoyed, despite my rants against the Silvia and JDM bros. And in the next episode, stuff will turn back to normal, because we're racing Nissan Almeras. Fantastic. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching, my name's been the Real Emile, and until next time, farewell.